So let's just recap where our gospel readings have taken us over the last 3 weeks. First, Jesus' instructions to the disciples, which focused on the practical side of their mission journey. Then last week we heard Jesus telling the 12 about the severe conditions that they would almost certainly experience. And our passage today, which focuses on the commitment of the apostles. Have no fear, says Jesus. Go and proclaim his mission and his message everywhere and to everyone. And do not fear the repercussions that may come from such announcements. For enemies can only kill the body and not the soul. Jesus said that discipleship may divide families. And he gives a list of discipleship duties as the ultimate test of commitment. 2 of them are, take up the cross and follow me. And those who find their life will lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake will find it. Once again, Jesus is leading us down a very hard and difficult path. And talking of paths, I've been enjoying exploring the forest of Saint-Germain during my first 3 weeks with you here. In the beginning, I was very tentative on my walks. I mean, it's a huge forest, isn't it? And I had visions of me exploring it deeper and deeper until I finally became lost and was never to be found again. And one of the things which makes it such a lovely place to visit and explore is the number of options that are available to you. I mean, you can't walk more than about 50 meters without being given the option of another path, of taking another direction. And sometimes the paths are larger and sometimes they're smaller. Some are well worn and some are less so. Sometimes you come to a crossroads where you are faced with at least 4 or 5 different options and directions. Which will you choose? Like mission, like discipleship, there are times when you have to be sensible, and others when boldness is called for. Who knows what might be discovered by walking down a path which is almost concealed? The biblical accounts of Jesus' ministry take us down paths which are not wide and open, but those which are hidden and less well trod. No fear and much faith is often required to follow Jesus down these paths, which were then and now countercultural. For example, Jesus accepted dinner invitations and sat down to banquets with those who were considered sinful or unfit or unclean. Jesus reached out with his hands and he touched the diseased, the outcast. He drew them to himself, back to health and to wholeness with his healing touch. Jesus bridged the enormous gap between the social and economic classes of his day. Jesus was continuously heading off down a forgotten path to rescue those who were lost, alone, or forgotten. And we see quiet villages that suddenly became the focal point for great messages and for miracles. And yet, in the middle of the Sanhedrin, in the heart of Jerusalem, Jesus said nothing. Jesus uttered not one word of defense. Jesus performed no miracles. Instead, Jesus' words and works were most often directed at those who were out of the loop, on the fringes, those without power or prestige, those who had been left behind by the culture of the day. Jesus taught a discipleship that required exploring or daring to go down the tiny path to find those who were left behind. The discipleship journey that Jesus maps out in today's text not only requires us to dare to go down unknown paths, to pick up the stragglers and the abandoned, he urges us to have no fear on that path, whether that path is wide or narrow. Next time you're in the forest of Saint-Germain, look at all those paths and let it remind you of your own discipleship journey, the times when you have found yourself faced with a choice. And Jesus is reminding us of those choices. What path will we choose, he asks. Will it be one which pleases ourselves? Will it be one which pleases others, or one which pleases God? And sometimes there are signs which make it difficult to tell which direction is the correct choice, and signs can be misleading. And Jesus warned his disciples that they must not be led astray, even by such seemingly right choices. So how can we tell? Well, Jesus helps the disciples to choose. He says, does the path lead in a direction where the cross is first and foremost, or does the direction take us into more worldly concerns? It's important to notice that the discipleship journey is one which includes learning, where the focus is for us to try and understand what Jesus is seeking to teach and to what we are able to learn. In this passage, we are asked to pause, to learn from Jesus. And the pause is crucial as we consider two aspects of discipleship that are found within this passage, and they are obedience and trust. Part of the nature of discipleship is learning to trust, to listen, to pray, to obey. They are elements which help to sustain us on our Christian journey. Sometimes we may find the path ahead is wide and easy, and it's a path where we will most often walk with others. And at other times, the path is not so easy. It's harder to discern, and we have no idea of the direction that it will take us. And that is when it can be very scary. Scary until we feel the presence of God with us on that path. And in our ear, we hear the gentle whisper of Jesus say, "Have no fear. Walk forward, my beloved. I am with you. Have no fear." Amen.